Okay, so now we're going to look at getting inputs from the user. So we're going to say x equals input, and we're going to say enter a message. Okay, and what this is going to do is when we get to this line, and then we'll say print x. Okay, when we get to this line here, so we run it, and it says enter a message, and I'm going to say hello, and you can see it print hello. Maybe we want to add a colon and a space here. We'll run it again, and there you go. And so what we did is we grabbed an input from the user. So this input line, what it does is it pauses the script here and waits for you to type something into the terminal down here. Okay, and this is a way that you can make something kind of interactive, or to, like maybe you can have some controls or run different, have it do different things. We get to points like that, but for now, we can do this to output some things. And so, okay, and so let's say we enter a message, and let's say enter a number. Okay. And we'll add that number to itself. Okay. Enter a message. Hello. Okay, it says enter a number. Let's enter the number 4. Now, if we enter the number 4, and we do 4 plus 4, we would expect to get 8 back, right? But when we enter this, we're going to actually get 44. Okay, and the reason we get 44 is when we add these together, when we get an input, those are strings. And so when we add strings together, enter another message, we'll call this one Y. When we add strings together, it just slaps them right together. So let's run it again. Message. So I say hello, and then I say world. And it says hello world. Maybe we want to put a space in the middle, like that. And now we run it again. And we'll say hello world, and you can see that it added them together. Okay, so if I want to get actual numbers, I have to have a way to take this input that is text or a string and tell Python to treat it as a number. And so what we're going to do is this. We're going to keep our input block. We're going to say enter a number. Okay. Oops, spelled it wrong. And we're going to say, so we grab our input, and so x is now a string, and we're going to say x equals int x. And what this int does is it converts a number or a string into an integer. So it's taking this text for the number that we entered, the text version of it, is turning into a number. And now, if I print x plus x, it will add it as a number, because now it has become a number. Okay, so 4 is our number, and you can see 4 plus 4 is 8. Now a question is, if we instead enter text, it can't turn that into a number, because it's not a number. And so then I get an error here saying value error, invalid literal for int with base 10 test. Okay, then it says here, line 4 in module. Okay, x equals int x. So it's saying it had an error here. Okay, and there's things that we can do about this. And so one of the best ways to do this, we can say try. And then we can say except. So what this is this is called a runtime exception. And so we entered an error state in our code and generated what's called an exception. And it caused our script to fail. So we'll take this print and I'm going to put it to here. And the way we can handle those exceptions is by trying to do something, and if we get an exception, we can handle it. And so here we can say print this equals please ensure the input is a number. Okay, and so now what will happen is when we run this, if I just put in some text, it says please ensure the input is a number. So what happened is we caught the exception with this block here, and we sent this message instead of that. If, on the other hand, I type in a number, it will add it like we expect it to. Okay, and then we can also probably type in a float. Nope, it doesn't like that. Interesting. So if we type in a float, it will not convert it to a string. But we can go like this. Right? So let's try that again with the float. 4.5, and there you go. It worked. Okay? So this is the input. We get inputs using this line here. You can give a prompt. This is my prompt. And we can say, you know, name equals, and then maybe say, what is your first name? And then we can say last name equals input. What is your last name? Okay. And let's say we want to print those together, so we can print them, name plus last name. And we're going to have some issues here, and we'll come back and fix them. Okay? So first thing we run it says first name, Mr., last name, Stafford. Okay? Oh, and it stuck them right next to each other. Be nice to have a space there. Okay? So I add a space. Okay? Mr. Stafford, like that. Okay, so let's say I forgot that this N was capitalized here, and I make it a little n. First of all, you see that it turned white. We got that yellow squiggly there, so there's a clue that something's wrong. But we're going to run it anyway. And you can see that it does give me an error right away. It gives me the error here when it gets to that point. This is because it's an interpreted language, it's running it line by line. Sometimes you'll get these errors earlier, but in this case, we don't get that error until we get to that line of the code. Okay, so we fix that variable. Something else that's worthwhile potentially is when we get an input, or when we actually want to print an output and use a formatted string, instead of having to add everything together like that, we can use something called an F string. Okay, so we can accomplish the same thing here by putting the letter F and then putting quotations. And then what I do is every time I want to put a variable in there, I type it in. So I'm going to say name and then last name, just like this. And so what this is basically accomplishing the same thing as this right here. Okay. Okay, so you can see they did the same thing twice, but this time this is just a little simpler way of doing it. This is called an F string, and it's a way that we can put those variables together in a string without having to add them or add spaces, right? And so if I want to get rid of the space, I can just get rid of the space, just add it. I can maybe add a message, hello, with an exclamation point, something like that. Okay, so let's run that. Mr. And you can see that it's got that message right there. Okay. Something else that can happen is, let's say we have a number. X. Well, let's get rid of it. Let's come back. Okay, so let's say x equals 1. So we have an integer. So if I want to add that number at the front, like that, maybe with a space in between, like that, versus just putting it here, like that, okay? So if I run this, we're going to get an error, or an exception, because I can't combine a number with text. Okay? So if I really want to do this, I have to convert it to a string. So I put the str around it, just like that. Now, I can run it. Mr. Stafford. I spelled my name wrong. And you can see it worked. And you can also see that when I use the f string, it automatically does that conversion for me. And so this is another reason why we like to use those f strings. And we're going to use those for just about everything. Okay? And so let's just kind of recap. We've covered a lot of things so far. First of all, if we want to print something, we just print it like this. Okay? We can do some math. If we have variables, x equals 7, y equals 9. We can add those together, just like that. Okay? And then we can get inputs. Just like that. And then we can print them back out, like this. Or you can even add something to it. We'll say, you said, like that. We add them together like that. But a better way to do it is like this. Print f. You said x. Okay? So you say something. Okay? And so primarily though we'll use these f strings because they're simpler and they help us to avoid some of these mistakes like the type errors and things like that.